Any medical emergency, suddenly your life could depend on the quick response of a rescue squad. And if you're outside of a major city, that emergency care will probably be provided by an unpaid volunteer. Tonight, in our Live at 5 close-up, a matter of life or death. Bill Baldini spends a day with one of the largest volunteer rescue squads in the state and finds they are ready for any emergency.
This is just one of the second alarmers emergency crews in action yesterday. The emergency call said a woman was having trouble breathing. It looked like a heart attack.
Please help me. Somebody help me.
Dr. Dillon, this is Adam Lewis from the second alarmers. We're at a home in Roslyn with a 76-year-old female who has a history of cardiac trouble as well as mild COPD. Pain and dyspnea at this time and is very apprehensive.
In this case, they quickly stabilized the patient and transported her to the hospital. No real treatment on the scene was necessary.
Our functions out on the street as paramedics is to evaluate and relay to the hospital all the pertinent information that we think that they'll need to know to make a diagnosis. We're their eyes and ears out in the field. That's our basic job.
The second alarmers used to be what the name implies, an outfit that used to follow fire engines around and give them coffee when the second alarm rang. Well, that was back in 1938. Things have changed. The second alarmers have evolved into a crack medical team, an emergency team, and they literally stand between life and death. They are based in the Willow Grove area and cover a large portion of Montgomery County. There are about 100 members and only 4 are paid. The bottom line is these 100 men and women have taken the responsibility of providing emergency care for over 160,000 residents. And most of those people never give them a thought until they need them.
I've lived in this community over 30 years, and they have always been here when we needed them. It's only since my mother has been ill this past year or so that we have used their services, but I know other people in the area that have used their services, and they're fantastic. The community is better because of them.
How quick do they arrive on the scene?
This time, it was about 12 minutes, as best I could figure. Now, how can you beat that? In this weather, from Willow Grove down to here and inside. They're fantastic.
The second alarmers are a highly trained force. Most are EMTs, emergency medical technicians. That means at least 81 hours of medical courses plus a state certification. Others who man the trucks and wagons are paramedics, and that requires a lot more training.
In order to be certified to ride one of the ambulances as an EMT, it would probably take you about 12, 13 months worth of training before you get to the level where you can ride in the back of an ambulance.
How about a paramedic?
Paramedics, an additional 200 to 300 hours worth of training, both in the hospital and in the classroom.
This is not a nickel and dime operation. They have 10 vehicles, 7 ambulances, 1 rescue wagon, a power and light truck, and of course, a canteen. Even though the second alarmers is a volunteer outfit, they have a budget in excess of $200,000 a year. Money's a problem because they're a lot better at medical emergencies than they are at business. And here's why. Private ambulance corps usually charge $100 or more for a ride to the hospital. The second alarmers charge only $75, but usually get only $50 if the person has insurance. If the patient doesn't pay, they get stuck, period. No bill collectors knock on your door. Most of their money comes from contributions, and most people in the community don't give.
Well, it's a matter of, I think everybody sits back and thinks that they'll never need us, and I just like them to know that when they do, we are here, and it doesn't matter whether or not they've supported us in the past.
Last year, these volunteers went out on over 6,000 calls. That's over 500 calls a month. That requires a lot of manpower, and it's always there, even if people have to volunteer anywhere from 20 to 80 hours a week. After observing the second alarmers for a while, a question comes to mind right out of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and that is, who are those guys? And in this case, the answer is people. People just like you. These 2 young men are students. Pat Grubb is a paid paramedic from 7 to 3, then volunteers for another 20 to 40 hours a week. Alex Levy is a cop for 8 hours, then a volunteer when he's off. The list goes on and on. If you are one of those people who think this is a social club, this mission might change your mind. The call said a man was found in the snow. It looked bad. Going in, the crew knew their skills would be tested to the limit. The battle against time and death was on, and spectators suddenly became helpers.
Start CPR. Here's straight line. Let's go.
Straight line again?
Abington, this is 350, 37.
Go back and straight up.
Patient just went straight line again.
I say, if you see defib at the scene and you like to shock it, I already gave you that order. I am not getting a good sense for shocking.
All clear? All clear. Okay, check for a pulse, keep ventilating. Step this out. Check for a pulse. No pulse, continue CPR. Stop CPR a second. Check for pulses. He's got a rhythm. Check for pulses.
Yeah, I get a weak one.
We got pulses.
As you saw, they revived the heart and got a pulse, but they continued to work even while they transported this man to the hospital.
I feel right now that he stands a good chance of surviving because CPR was administered at the scene on the onset of his attack, which means that we have a very viable patient to work with.
I'm wondering about the emotional consequence. I know I was standing there saying to myself, breathe, you know, be okay. And I noticed myself getting involved. Do you get involved?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I sit there a lot of times saying, boy, I wish this guy would start pumping his own blood so we don't have to do any spontaneous respirations for a lot of reasons, but sometimes it's, you know, the inevitability of it is that not all of them are saved.
At the hospital, they worked on this man for 45 minutes. He had a past history of heart ailments. He died.
I think as long as you can go back and say, you know, we tried as hard as we could to do all that we know how to do, God just didn't want this gentleman to live, and that's about where it is.
Well, unfortunately, they don't win all their battles, but they do win a lot. And the cold reality is many people who are walking around today owe their lives to volunteer companies, just like the second alarmers. In this day where you hear and see so much of man's inhumanity to man, it's comforting to know volunteerism is still alive and well, and we all are better off for it. Larry.
Fascinating and revealing report, and I have one, I think, which is a very important question. What about the legal liability? Is there a legal problem?
Yeah, there is a legal problem, and it's hard to believe. If you or I came upon an accident, we help someone, we are under this Good Samaritan Act. Nothing can happen to us. But because these people went to school and learned how to help us, they are not covered under the Good Samaritan Act. And they are really angry about it. And there's a lot of volunteer people out there who are just as angry, and I think they have a tremendous cause. So they have to think twice about helping someone on the street. That shouldn't be. That should not be.
They're in danger of getting...